Welcome back to the Unfortunate Diehards podcast. Hashtag number 78. Everyone's favorite 78. Philip Chlapik, center is Lincoln.
Totally forgot you. Did Filipino play for Ottawa?
No.
Okay, I mixed them up so many times.
Chlapik played like 20 games. And
I know that. I don't know why they mixed up in my head. Anyways, continue.
Both named Philip. Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. I am your resident Ottawa Senators fan, and I'm Evan.
I'm your resident Leafs fan, and I'm Omar.
I am your homegrown Caps fan, Sufyan.
Homegrown.
I just want to be different.
You seem like you're in such a good mood. What have you not been up to lately?
A couple games nights here and there. Finished uni for the semester, so I'm living large right now. I'm halfway through law school, and then I can come back to Canada and leave this, for lack of a better term, shithole. That is the UK. But yes, I'm excited to be halfway done.
I don't argue that point.
Yeah, bro, it's so much rain. No one, people warned me about the rain. I came back to Canada in December last year, and I didn't really experience it. But like every day of the past week has just been gray.
It's just insanity.
At least if it's here, it's cold and gray and snowy.
Snowy, yeah.
Kind of nice.
It's lovely, yeah.
Honestly, but we don't. It's not even that gray here. It's snow and sunny.
But that's the thing. I got a Snapchat story from like a memory from 2 years ago, and it's just beautiful and snowy everywhere. And then I look outside, and it's not even raining anymore. It's just gray.
Yeah,
it's bad. Gray. Yeah. Anyways, Evan, how have you been?
Good. Been busy. I've been volunteering my time and going for interviews and stuff. So it's been nice. I'm excited for the holiday season to see a lot of people I care about.
Except for me. All right, Omar.
I said people like that. Omar?
Yes.
How are you?
Been up to? Yes.
It's been good. It's been busy at work, and but now I'm winding down for the Christmas season. So, just been chilling, not doing much, relaxing at home, spending time with the family.
Omar can't disclose his job as he does some shady stuff for the Canadian government.
Yes, I cannot disclose that.
That sounds so much worse than just saying what you have to do. Yeah, all right. Let's get into hockey. I'm going to start with the standings update today. We'll start with the Western Conference because that's the one we don't care about as much. So we'll start with the Central Wildcard standings and the first three in that division, Winnipeg, Minnesota, and Dallas. Winnipeg and Minnesota are fairly close, 45 and 44 points. Minnesota has a game in hand. Dallas holds on to their third spot with 36 points. In the Pacific, Vegas leads with 43 points, and then the Kings and Oilers both have 30 games played and have 39 and 38 points respectively. And then the two in the wildcard spot right now are the Avs and the Canucks. But the Flames are tied with the Canucks, so they're pretty close behind, but they've been faltering a little bit lately. And then just rounding out the West, Utah, St. Louis, Seattle, San Jose, Anaheim, Chicago, and Nashville. Chicago and Nashville are tied for last. In the Eastern Conference, the Atlantic Division, the Maple Leafs lead with 40 points, with the Panthers close behind at 38, and the Bruins holding the third spot for now with 35 points. In the Metro, my Washington Capitals lead the Eastern Conference and the Metro Division with 44 points. They have 4 games in hand on the Devils. Can someone tell me why the Devils have 33 games played? That's absolutely absurd. They played a lot of games, and they have 43 points just behind the Caps. Carolina is holding on to the third Metro spot.
The Devils started their season earlier against Buffalo for the Global Series.
Yeah, yes, yeah.
They did, and yet the Buffalo still has 31 games played, so I don't know why. They just kept playing. The Devils are going to have a light schedule in the second half. But yeah, the divisional spots for the Metro are pretty far ahead of the wild card spots, but the Atlantic is where it gets kind of interesting. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but just for the standings right now. Tampa and the Ottawa Senators hold the wild card spots. Much to all three of our teams are in the playoff spot right now. What a life! The Caps would be playing the Sens right now. Actually, that would be terrible for my sanity.
That period, actually.
That would be horrible for me at Evan. I would
your team and a better goalie.
I would I don't know if I'd still be Evan's best man after that series. And then the Flyers are actually tied with the Sens, but they played an extra game. And then rounding out the East, Rangers, surprisingly, then the Penguins, Islanders, Blue Jackets, and Red Wings are all separated by a couple points. Then the Sabres and the Canadiens are in the bottom. So that's our standings update. We'll go to standout performers.
Randomly, when you were listing the standings, you were like, we have whoever in Dallas in third, and then you switch divisions, and then you're like, Edmonton, they have 30 games played. It's like throwing out random stats.
Hey, man, I'm just going off vibes here, okay?
Colorado has 63 goals for.
Evan, you want to start off with your standout performer for the Central Division?
Performer from the Central Division is no one but my best hockey fantasy player, Nathan McKinnon.
Nate Mac.
Just dominant. No need to explain. He's just pretty nice with it. Got the dog.
I swear every one of his goals is nice to look at.
Yeah.
Omer, Central Division.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Recently, someone who's been playing really well is Jordan Kyrou.
Okay. So he got off to a bit of a slow start.
He got off to a bit of a slow start, but he's been scoring a decent amount actually in the last week or 2 weeks, and his fellow teammate Robert Thomas is also starting to heat up. So they're both doing well right now actually. But I'll go with Kyrou right now. I think he's a bit harder.
Okay, fair enough. My standout performer in the Central Division is Kyle Connor. I feel like he's been pretty consistent throughout the year. But he had 5 points in 3 games. I don't know. I just like Kyle Connor. He has 5 primary points as well, so it's not...
Even though he's not on your Team USA roster. Tough.
Yeah, it was a crazy omission, wasn't it? It was a bit of an oversight considering he's on my fantasy team as well in one of my leagues. But yeah, I do love Kyle Connor, and sometimes I forget about him. So we'll go with him. Evan, your Pacific Division?
My Pacific Division standout player is... I have to check because I wrote it down. Victor Olofsson. Recently, I've been checking Vegas scores, and he seems like to be scoring every game the past week or week and a bit. And obviously, that's what he does. He scores on the power play, not much else. But he has 4 goals in the past week, and really just kind of making up for some people who are out of the lineup for Vegas.
Poor man's Patrick Laine, some might say. Omer?
I'm gonna go Nazem Kadri.
You bum.
What's that goal? The goal he scored last game was brilliant, man. When
he scored 2.
Yeah, he scored. Yeah, but
he scored a couple.
Man, yeah, Nazem Kadri's been good. And he's my fellow Muslim hockey player, so I gotta go for him.
Fellow former Leaf fan.
Yeah.
My Pacific Division. We'll go with Leon Draisaitl, 9 points in 3 games. He has worked himself into the MVP race. He leads the league in goals, and honestly, I think I saw a stat. It was like there's only been 3 players that have won the Hart, the Rocket, and the Art Ross, and it was Ovechkin, McDavid, and Crosby. And he's kind of on track right now, if he can keep going in the goals department, to do that again, because he already has a Hart Trophy as well. So, Leon Draisaitl. Evan will go with Atlantic Division.
My Atlantic Division MVP for the past week is
Linus Ullmark.
None other than Linus the Weenus Ullmark. He has literally extraordinary stats in his past 5 or more games. Very impressive lately. Had some great shutouts, had incredible saves in that Pittsburgh game, and really has kept us in a lot of games that could have been difficult, or were difficult still, but would have been even more difficult otherwise. So he's been really, really good lately, and has fit in very well lately.
Omer?
Before I give my pick, I'm going to give a shout out, and my shout out is to John Tavares. Hat trick last night. He could have had like 5 goals yesterday. Amazing game. He played.
Literally, no one asked about your shout out.
Yes,
but it's
but
fine.
my shout out is important. I'm going to go Kuchi. I'm going to go Nikita Kucherov for the Atlantic Division because he's come back from injury, and holy shit, I have him in fantasy, and I'm loving it. Like he had like a 6 or 8 point.
Hey, guess who has his 2 line mates? Nerd.
Yeah, true. But man, yeah, he had like a 6 point game the other day against who was it? I forgot, but it was brilliant.
Spoofy, pick Batherson.
I wasn't looking at him. I can't pick him. I will go with Braden Point. He is on one of my fantasy leagues. My thing with him is like, I love Braden Point. I think he's a great player. He had 7 points in 3 games last week. He's shooting like at a ridiculously high percentage. He's 19-20 goals on 53 shots.
Like he missed time too. It's like
that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
and he missed games.
And the highest single season shooting percentage is Kuzmenko with 27%, and Braden Point right now is at 35%. So we'll see if he keeps finishing.
Adam Gaudette keeps playing. You never know.
Well, exactly.
I just traded Kuzmenko in fantasy, actually.
Yeah. I don't know if we can rely on that shooting percentage, but I think he's scored enough at this point where he'll end up in a good place. Evan, your Metro Division.
My Metro Division is a line mate of someone who may have benefited, but had, I believe, a 4-point game or something recently. Anyways. Brian Rust has had.
Oh man, I was going to say Brian Rust.
A sneaky good past few weeks, I believe, and that line, even when I was at the game against Ottawa, was just very dominant, to be honest. So definitely their best line and a very effective player.
Omer?
Well, I'm sticking to my backup, and it's the same team, but I'm going to go Chris Letang. He's had a good week of hockey. 4 points, I think. 1 under.
I feel like a lot of your guys' stats right now is from that 9-2 Montreal game.
in which Malkin surprisingly got 0 points.
Is that surprising, or is that just surprising because he's on your fantasy team?
He's not on my. I traded him.
Oh, yeah, you traded. That's good.
Yeah, but he got no points, so I don't know. It's still surprising.
Fair
How
enough.
many trades are Nick and Omar going to make together?
Who knows, bro? They're go-tos. Omar got his first taste of trading with me. My Metro player is a bit of a surprise one. It's not a Cap for the first time. I'm going to go with a guy that played against the Caps, and he really impressed me. His stats aren't eye-popping, but I think that's more to do with his team. And it's Jet Greaves for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He was a call-up goaltender. 290 GAA, 906 save percentage, .45 goal saved above average. He played 2 games. This guy was absolutely insane. I felt bad because Columbus's defense wasn't really doing much for him, but he played really well. So just a bit of a different guy to mention. Jet Greaves. I think he should be given a chance considering how bad their other goalies are. But yeah. Nice. We'll go with Mr. Greaves. All right, guys. It's time for my new game. Hey, for the next thing here, guys, the next one is called Over Under. And this game involves, I'm going to have 5 players, and then I'm going to have 5 over unders. Right. This game is called Over Under, our next little segment here. And essentially, I'm going to pick 5 players. We're going to pick 5 different stats for each of these players. And each of you are going to go over and under. You can pick the same answer, but if you want to tie at the end, that's kind of boring. And we're going to switch who goes first for each round, so it's a little bit more fair. But whoever starts is whoever I like better. Travis Konechny. Does he have over or under 12 goals?
Right
Evan,
now.
you can start
Right now?
right now.
He has over 12 goals.
Omer?
Why do I have to go first?
What if I think he has 12 exactly? Can I say 12? Or it has to be over under?
If you think it's exact or more, you have to say over.
Okay, I'm gonna go under.
The winner of round 1 is Evan Gowans,
I knew it.
as he has exactly 15 goals. All right.
Meta player.
I picked a boring stat. We're going to do something a little more interesting now. At 5-on-5.
Who has more goals saved above expected out of Columbus Blue Jacket goalies?
Does Nikita Zadorov have over or under 19 minor penalties? For context, he has played 32 games.
I'm gonna go over.
Under.
He has 24.
I thought it was over, but I was like,
He did it for the plot. I respect it.
That's what I did with Connect Me as well.
All right. So, Erik Karlsson, Evan's longtime lover, does he have in 32 games over or under 50 giveaways? Evan.
why would you do this? $50.
50.
50 is a lot.
See, I feel like the Sufi would only do this to be like, he sucks. So I'm going to say over just because of that.
I want to say over too, but
You can say over. You can tie if you want, assuming it's right.
Well, we'd be tied even if it was wrong.
True.
just whatever. I'll go under.
Shot yourself in the foot there. It's 54. He is fourth in the league. The leading in that category is actually Mackenzie Weegar. It's kind of surprising. Brady Tkachuk. I'll do a good stat for this.
Under.
Just
under.
so.
Everything's
All
under.
right. Does he have over, this is Omer first, over or under 130 shots on goal?
I want to say I'll go under.
Yeah.
I'm going to say over because I know he had a game where he had like 12. I'm hoping that boosts it.
He is third in the league with 125 shots on goal.
Ooh, I win that one.
So this is the tiebreaker, okay? Now it's getting dicey. So I'm going to pick a outlandish stat, as one does.
Alex Nylander games played.
I feel like that would be pretty easy, I'll be honest. Okay. According to naturalstattrick.com, does Kevin Lankinen, goalie for the Vancouver Canucks, Homer, I think you need to know that information. Does he have over or under 3 goals saved above average? And this is Evan first.
Under.
I'm also going under.
Oh, you're so boring.
But I mean,
You guys tied, but you both got it wrong. It's 3.88.
See?
So we'll go with the tiebreaker just to tie break it. UC Saros. Actually, Igor Shesterkin. At 5-on-5. Over or under 500 saves? Omer?
he's been kind of shit and sometimes good. And I'll go over.
At 5-on-5, does he have over 500 saves?
Yes. In 22 games played. Don't do the math.
Under?
Is that your final answer?
I'm just going different.
All right. Well, you win.
Oh!
It's 491.
I was thinking, I was like, it's probably close because if it's 500 and it's 20 something, so it's like 5 divided by 2. And anyways.
Okay. We're moving on to prominent storylines. And for this one, I do want to start with we'll start with Colorado and San Jose. I feel like that's a little bit lesser to talk about because it's pretty cut and dry. Mackenzie Blackwood and Alex Georgiev trading places. Personally, I think that's a good trade for the Avs. I don't think Georgiev's necessarily a terrible goalie. I don't think he's had the best time in Colorado, where other goalies have. Where Blackwood's been playing pretty well in San Jose. So I think it's a pretty good trade for them. It might have been one of their final kind of pieces to, hopefully try to hold on to any sort of franchise dynasty kind of situation they have kind of going on right now. But he's a very good goalie and has been over the past couple of seasons. Anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, I mean, considering the team he was playing for before that, I think, what does he put up? Like, he's above 9-10 save percentage, right? So, with on the Sharks, I think that's a very good thing. I think he's going to have a much better team in front of him now. I know he has a much better team in front of him now. So I think he's that's a good fit. Yep.
Evan?
I have no comment.
Fair enough. He was on my fantasy team. That's why I really cared about this trade, to be honest.
Yeah, I know. So he's going to talk about some other guy that was traded on his fantasy team.
Love Blackwood. There are two goalies now, Blackwood and Wedgwood.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Where's Pavel Francouz?
Retired, actually. All right, the bigger trade, and by all accounts, a worse trade for one of the teams. Cam Fowler has been traded to the St. Louis Blues, along with a 4th-round pick, in exchange for, I don't think I'm going to say this right, Jeremy Bykabutuka, and a 2nd-round pick. So this now gives the St. Louis Blues Justin Falk at $6.5 million, Torrey Krug at $6.5 million, Colton Parayko at $6.5 million, Cam Fowler at $6.5 million. Actually, they got some retained. Still, he's making $4 million. Nick Leddy is still on their IR at $4 million, and then Ryan Suter is on their team. I don't care how much he's making; it's not a lot. It's league minimum, but still. It was a bit of a weird trade for me because St. Louis didn't really seem like the team that would be trading for another kind of mid to bad defenseman that's old. And I think they wanted more of a puck mover for Colton Parayko, but they have that in Broberg, so I was kind of curious as to why they kind of did that trade. But yeah, I don't know. Omer?
So which trade are we doing right now?
Fowler to St. Louis.
Yeah, I'm not sure why this trade was done either. I don't understand what does St. Louis think they're getting out of Fowler right now?
Another aging defenseman that's been playing bad.
What's the reason for it? I don't know. Like, I looked at the trade and I saw Fowler's stats and stuff, and I was like, what did the GM look at and be like, yeah, let's take Cam Fowler? Like, is he just saying, oh, because he was in a bad situation, now he's going to just play better or something? Like, I don't know. But I don't really have much opinion apart from why.
It's the same philosophy I think people have with John Gibson, where it's like, yeah, he's been playing bad, but he's been on a bad team. Maybe he can turn it around. I think it's a bit of a risk to take for a guy that's 33 years old.
Yeah. But okay, anyway, he'll go on a better team, so maybe we'll see some better performance.
St. Louis is a better team, but how much better are they really? They're better, I guess. It's a bit of a low bar. Evan, any comment on this one?
I used to have Cam Fowler on fantasy, and then I dropped him.
That was probably a very sensible thing to do.
Now, so you better not mess up Broberg.
Fair enough. All right, the trades are out of the way. I don't think there's much of an opinion for any of us on that. It's just a bit of a...
Should we talk a little bit about Trouba, considering we haven't done one?
Oh yeah, the Trouba trade happened. I forgot about that, yeah. Trouba to Anaheim.
Trouba to Anaheim. I forgot what the return was, honestly.
They got
Back a 9 and a fourth.
oh my god, yeah, that was an interesting deal to say the least.
So I feel like there's a couple of
Yeah.
also. Obviously, the reason they did it was mainly for the Shesterkin contract.
I will say I'll lay out the reasoning for Trouba. So the whole thing with Trouba last year was that like he wouldn't waive his no trade clause because of his wife. That was the only real reason that he cited as saying that like his wife is a practicing doctor in New York. So he didn't really want to leave the area, but none of the teams in the New York area, like Jersey, Islanders, etc., were interested. So the Rangers this year decided to go the Barclay Goodrow route, where they said, if you don't waive your no trade clause, we'll waive you. And they threatened him with that. And then I guess the Anaheim deal was on the table. So he decided to go there anyway. But it did come out that if he got waived, Anaheim would have picked him up anyway. So regardless of what he thought was going to happen, he was going to end up in Anaheim one way or another. Does this do anything for Anaheim? They got Gudas and Trouba now, so they have two of the most feared hitters in the league, albeit two of the most dirty hitters in the league.
Yeah.
But yeah, New York signs Shesterkin on the back of that, so I guess that's a positive.
Yeah, I kind of like, obviously the way it was handled by Chris Drury maybe wasn't the best thing to do, especially mid-season. I'm kind of under the impression that a lot of players might not be very happy with management in the Rangers right now.
Rangers and the players in the like other players that have no trade clauses are probably not happy with it.
Exactly. And I can't help but think that, yeah, okay, I'm like Rangers, I'm sure are underperforming for various reasons and stuff, but I wouldn't be surprised if this has something to do with why the team's not really gelling right now.
I will say Trouba did play bad enough where he could get waived. It was just a thing where he was making $8 million and is your captain. So
yeah, and I'm assuming like obviously when Trouba became captain, which was like 2 years ago now, we all had our opinions on why he's captain. But obviously there must be like in terms of his relationship with the other players on the team and in terms of his maybe his locker room reputation and stuff. I'm sure players must have really liked him. So it probably wasn't fun for them to see that happen with him. So I don't know if it doesn't help, regardless of whether on paper your team got better with the trade or not. It doesn't help the morale of the team in the way it happened.
I feel like there might be a NHLPA or something sort of situation that may come from this, and these sort of things happening over and over, and be like, if you have a no trade, maybe there'll be a no waive clause as well, kind of built into that, or maybe at least for a certain number of years, because for him, for example, it kind of sucks that you sign a big contract like 4 years ago or whatever, or 4 years ago, then become captain, then get asked to waived, then are forcefully, essentially waived, when you thought you were going to have that security for the length or a good chunk of your contract, and then it didn't matter in the end, because that's part of the reason he probably signed the contract. Like maybe, I don't know, Columbus offered him $8 million but didn't want to give him a no trade or something, and that can be kind of frustrating for him, because it's supposed to be built into the contract for the player to have that kind of stability, and it gets taken away with this sort of loophole.
Yeah, that's on the back of that. I think Trouba, they did say he might file a grievance, but I think they decided on not doing that. But it is something that's probably going to come up in the next CBA.
I think the other thing with because the other thing with the no trades is like I feel like waivers first of all shouldn't be possible if you do a no trade with a player. Like I feel like that's kind of strange that there's waivers there. But anyway, in terms of the no trade, both player and team like they get in a bit of a awkward position when players kind of past their prime and not playing like they did when they signed the no trade, and then like it happened with Matt Sundin in Toronto too, and he didn't waive it, and he kind of got ostracized by a bunch of fans and stuff too, because because of you we're not getting better, because you won't leave and we won't get a good package for you and whatnot, right? Like, so players kind of lose a lot out of it. Like either they get traded and when they don't want to get traded, if they don't, and if they action their no trade, they're like they kind of are not like that for that, you know.
I think a potential solution to this is something they have in baseball where they have opt-outs in their contracts, where it's like you either have a team opt-out or you have a player opt-out. So you say after 6 years, like Juan Soto, he just signed a 15-year contract, but there's an opt-out for the team after 5 years. So the opt-out works as in if they don't want to pay him. So right now he's making $50 million a year, which is crazy, but that's a different conversation. He's making $50 million a year. And at 5 years, they have to either decide to pay him $55 million for the rest of the 10 years, or they can terminate the contract. So the team has that power on them, but there's also other contracts where it's like the player opt-out, where the player can put an opt-out after 7 years and be like, at 7 years, I want to go to free agency, so I'm going to exercise that opt-out. In this case, you can also, I think it should be maybe easier to terminate the contract. I think it'd be a different thing where, let's say Trouba, they asked him to leave, he didn't want to waive, etc. Another thing you could do is make it easier for them to just say, okay, let's just terminate this contract. You go sign wherever you want for however much money.
Yeah.
Because then he can stay in the New Jersey, New York area and get paid maybe not as much, but usually with termination clauses, you have to pay out a certain amount of the salary anyway. So, New York can pay him whatever part of the contract that they want him to, and then he can go and sign somewhere that's closer to where he wants to be rather than all the way across the country. So I think there's potential solutions to this. I think that the CBA is going to be an interesting discussion because the not the PA, but I think the NHL themselves wants to lower the term of contracts as well, or both sides do. So if you lower it to 5 or 6 years, then there's less of a commitment. But I think it becomes a bit of a different situation with the NHL because they have a salary cap as opposed to the MLB that doesn't. But the NBA has a salary cap and they also have opt-outs. So I don't know.
Also
I think
weird rules where it's like you spend this amount, then you're taxed higher. So it's like it's a hard cap in the NHL,
But that's the thing. NBA has a hard cap, and they still have opt-outs in their contracts, but they only can sign a max of 5, right? So there's solutions around this. There's just no one's really tried to. The capping of years of contracts in the NHL has been the only thing that's changed in a long time. So I think it's definitely going to come up in the CBA for sure. Listen, I mean, we could talk about the Rangers now. I mean, they're 3-7-0 in their last 10. They have been worse than that in general over the last month or so. They're 7-8-1 at home, which is surprising. But the same thing, I can speak to this, happened with Laviolette in Washington. We got off to a good start, and then a lot of the younger players started coming up, but he was prioritizing the aging players and trying to keep them in the lineup and kind of pushing the other players down the lineup. And the cap started to falter, and I see that happening now with the Rangers, where it's like they had 1 or 2 good years under Laviolette, and now the system just isn't working. The players that used to be what they were just aren't anymore. Guys like Lafreniere isn't getting as much of an opportunity, even though he's playing pretty damn well. And Laviolette has a history of just suppressing young talent until he gets fired. So I think that the hot seat in New York is pretty damn hot, and I think if we see another 2 weeks of the Rangers playing bad, Laviolette is gone.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised actually, because the Rangers can't really afford to let a season go to waste right now.
With how much money they've spent on their team and long-term contract signed, they just signed Shesterkin for long.
Picks that NHL gave them, even when they were good.
I think
it's conspiracies now.
I think it'll depend on how
I've never been a conspiracy theorist, but when Bedard and the Rain, when all the big 6 teams are getting high picks, even when they're not necessarily that bad.
I'll believe you if the Rangers miss the playoffs and win the lottery this year. So
I mean, Bedard to Chicago.
Yeah.
Then who was it?
Yeah, I have to say I didn't agree with the Bedard to Chicago either.
I'd be so pissed off if let's say the
first round pick because we frigging traded Evgeny Dadonov, who didn't submit his thing when
team.
So wait, that year the Sens weren't even part of the lottery, right? They couldn't even. That was that year. Damn, yeah. Ooh.
But I'd be so pissed off if we go this year Jansen Hagen's a pretty good prospect, but we go to Gavin McKenna in 2 years. That lottery is going to be huge because this guy's putting up numbers that like even McDavid didn't put up at his age at 16. So if we go to those years and we see the Rangers, the Penguins win the draft lottery, I'll be so pissed off, and I'll be on that bandwagon with you guys.
It's going to be the Penguins or like the Red Wings are just going to miss and then they're going to win or something.
Because Gavin McKenna falls into a higher than Bedard category at the same age. Like, obviously, you feel a bit tentative putting these labels on younger players, but he's been touted as long as McDavid was when he was coming up through the ranks. Like, this guy's been absolutely insane.
You know what I have to say? So far, I think Connor Bedard's a little overrated. Because everyone still talks about him like, oh, McDavid, Matthews, Bedard. And I'm like, Bedard, he has 7 goals this year.
I can see Bedard falling into like a Jack Hughes kind of situation, where it's like the first couple of years are bad.
He like takes a bit longer.
Yeah.
Breaks out. But like right now,
because
like,
if you look at it,
in that conversation, but people are putting him in there.
But he's also
I do agree. But that's what I'm saying, that like he falls into the Hughes category, because guys like Matthews, McDavid, Ovechkin, Crosby, etc. They got past the fact that their teams were bad. Like Ovechkin, Crosby, the next highest players on their team in the rookie years were like 50 points, and they had 100 plus. Matthews had a great first year, and Toronto wasn't a playoff team, I don't think, in the first year that he was there. Yeah, exactly. So like he hasn't been able to break through that barrier, and like Chicago is a bad team, but those teams were just as bad, if not worse. Especially Washington. The next highest player was like Dana Zubris at like 50 points or something like that in Ovechkin's rookie year. So I do see what Evan's saying, and like I think that we'll talk about like, Bedard in 2 years from now.
In a CIBC commercial,
I've seen it.
Is he really a woodworker?
I don't know. I think marketing NHL players at this point is kind of tough, especially how boring they are.
Yeah, I think he's going through a bit of a sophomore slump. I don't know. Maybe he'll pick it up in the second half.
Yeah, but again, that's what I'm saying. I think he falls into the Hughes and McKinnon category for sure.
Yeah. As of right now, he still has that good shot, which is he's not scoring with it. But I mean,
we'll see what he does as like his team improves, and then if he still stays kind of like stagnant, then it's a different conversation, right?
Yeah.
But for now, Evan is right. Like he shouldn't be in the conversations with like the upper echelon guys. He should be in the conversation with like the Jack Hughes and the guys that took longer to develop.
Yeah.
We're on bad teams, so let's stick with a bad team. I don't think it's going to be that long of a conversation. The Buffalo Sabres are 0-7-3 in their last 10. They lost 10 straight. They're a bit of an they're a bit of an interesting conversation, because they have 92 goals for and 104 goals against, which is, for a team that's like last place or like second last place in the conference, you wouldn't think that their numbers would be that close, but they've lost the most 1-goal games in the NHL by like a crazy amount. I don't know the number, but I remember saying in the Caps broadcast when we played the Sabres, it's like a ridiculous amount of 1-goal games that they've lost.
Well, this was like Montreal last year. Montreal had the most 1-goal losses, even though they weren't very good, like stats, record-wise, I guess. But they were in so many games. So it's like, again, like sort of similar. Like they're not necessarily having an awful season per se, because it's close a lot of the time, and that's what you want for a young team, at least to be in games. But they're maybe just not getting a save they need or a bounce they need to hopefully get them over that, or even force it to overtime.
So this is what I told you guys. We were doing division rankings, and I told you it's the same thing every year with Buffalo. They're always like, oh, these guys should be good, and they just don't.
Yeah. And the thing is,
on paper, they shouldn't be this bad.
They shouldn't.
Spit?
He did.
Oh my gosh, that was crazy. That was huge.
I didn't even notice.
The thing with Montreal, so they didn't have Line A for the first 2 months, but I think they went out and got someone like Line A for the fact that they had so many 1-goal game losses. That's a guy that can potentially help you overcome that. Where the Sabres, Thompson is playing better than last year. He's not playing as well. But then the supporting cast just isn't as good. Like Jack Quinn scored for the first time in like 12 games or like 18 games. I think it was actually not 12. and Dylan Cousins has like 13 points. So like a lot of their supporting cast is just not doing as well. So I'm curious to see if they like, maybe not this season, but in the off season they go and get like a goal scorer, someone that's at least a reliable source of goals, because their goaltending is fine. Like Uki Pookie is playing pretty well, and like he makes absolutely insane saves all the time, but he gets outshot by 20 every single game. And like obviously
one of the best shot differentials in the NHL, the Ottawa Senators.
Do you want me to verify that?
Yes.
Every year the Buffalo Sabres play now, they're just making Jack Eichel look better and better.
Yeah.
Also, if he looks this up, I'd like to bring up today's sponsor. So Carlington Booch is a kombucha company based out of Ottawa. They make traditionally brewed kombucha from all organic materials, as well as 100% of their profits go to supporting different charities across the Ottawa area, getting people off the streets and sober as well. So here I have a brand new seasonal flavor, which is hibiscus and sea moss. So I'll be trying that later. And you can also get the 1 liter bottles and bring them back for free, or not free refills, but it's a cheaper kind of version of getting them. So visit them at carlingtonbooch.com and feel free to pick up your 6-pack or to a full 24-pack on their website. So it promotes gut health, so it has a lot of probiotics, so it helps you digest better, as well as kind of have healthy bowel movements as well. So it's essentially black tea that is a little bit sweetened and then fermented, so it has carbonation as well. And they have a variety of flavors, being raspberry, blueberry, rhubarb cream soda, root beer, and then they have ginger and naked. And then they have a seasonal flavor right now, being sea moss and turmeric, or hibiscus and turmeric. And really, really good drinks. They're inexpensive at about $3.50 a bottle. But if you were to buy them in larger packages, they can go down to about $2.50 a bottle. So it has a bit of caffeine. So if you're kind of sick of coffee and want a healthier kind of alternative, then this could be a great decision for you.
Ottawa is 7th in shot for percentage.
I told you.
At 52.69. Who's last? Curious. Oh, Montreal. Sounds surprising. Damn, they're last by a lot. Sorry, Montembeau. All right, let's move on to some positive news here.
Yeah.
Edmonton Oilers have gone through their cycle that they've gone through the last couple of years, with starting off where everyone thinks the world's going to end and being absolutely insane since. It didn't help with McDavid getting hurt in the middle of that, but they've won 5 straight. They're 8-2-0. But the main topic of conversation for me is Darnell Nurse. Absolutely insane resurgence for him in the last month and a half. I watched a couple of their games, being that I was up at 3 a.m. But he looks like a completely different player, both defensively and offensively. I think Bouchard improving a little bit as well has helped him. But I think it goes to show what they saw in him when they signed him for way too much money.
To quote Lou Lamoriello, it's too much money, it's too long.
Yeah. And then he goes on to sign Pierre Engvall and putting him on waivers after signing him for 7 years at $3 million a year. But yeah, his advanced stats, he's plus 1.5 in offense, plus 3.5 defensively. He's in the 97th percentile defensively this year. And a lot of that has to do with his last month and a half or so, with how the Oilers started playing better. And I think it goes to show that, like, if just 1 or 2 players that were underperforming can kind of turn it around, it makes a big change for your team. Even look at Ottawa with Linus Ullmark. The rest of the team necessarily wasn't playing as good as they could have, but he had the tendency to let in the soft goal or two, which I'm not saying is completely gone, but he's definitely cleaned it up a lot, and it's definitely helped Ottawa a lot too. So just having one player that can kind of change the outlook of a team, I think Darnell Nurse is probably the most important player for the Oilers going forward, especially when we go into playoffs. Last year, they were like, we're going to shelter the hell out of Nurse and get to the finals in spite of him. And now it's looking like he can actually be an asset for once since this contract being signed. So
The other resurgence in the league right now, though, a bit is the Pittsburgh Penguins, to be honest. they're also what 7-3-0 or something in the last 10 games. They're in a wild card spot right now, or just out.
Lost to Ottawa.
They're 6-3-1 in their last 10, and they're a point out of a wildcard spot, but they have 2 more games played than the Sens.
So
it is a good transition, though.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
the Eastern wildcard race is between like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 teams. I'm not counting Buffalo, but 8 teams, and then you also have Boston. That's hanging on for dear life to that 3rd spot. But yeah, I mean,
actually.
But yeah, Pittsburgh, I mean, the Metro standings are a little like, it's going to be hard for them to get a divisional spot because Carolina's 3rd in the division and they're 8 points behind them. The wild card's wide open, man.
The Atlantic division is a fun one this year, to be honest. It's pretty. It's going to be a fun one till the end, I think. And I think I think the division places are going to be set and stay that way generally. Maybe the 3rd spot teams might shift around. I do think in the Atlantic, especially, I think it's going to be till the end between Toronto and Florida. We don't know who's going to end in first.
It's the same with the Devils and Caps in the Metro. Yeah. Well, Devils, Caps, and Hurricanes, because the Hurricanes have 3 games in hand on Devils, obviously.
So, at each position in the standings, there's like competition in the Atlantic, which is it's fun. Like every game kind of means something, even though we're like not even halfway into the season yet, which is fun.
But I don't like Metro race is kind of just between the 3 teams at the top right now. But Atlantic, aside from Toronto, Florida, even by the way, Toronto and Florida are only 40 points and 38 points. Like they can easily falter a little bit and come out of those spots.
Yep.
Boston's 3 points behind them, but then you have Ottawa that's 3 points behind them. You have Tampa that's a point behind them. So we could see a completely different outlook in the new year for at least the Atlantic Division. The Leafs just haven't been scoring as much. Their goaltending has been absolutely insane.
The goaltending has been good. The thing with the Leafs is they're a very weird team this year because it's like they're putting up their wins and whatnot. They're not scoring as much at all. So it's hard for me to tell. Like, I mean, especially in the coaching change and stuff. Like, what do I like? What do I not like? Yeah, obviously I don't like that they're not scoring as much, but at the same time, I guess maybe it's better they're staying in closer games and not just running up the score line of the game. And like that obviously hasn't been boding well for them when it comes to playoff time. But the other thing that was so funny actually, they played New Jersey last week. Absolutely stole a win out of nowhere from that game. Like I was watching.
What do they have? 13 shots or something like.
After the first period, going halfway through the second period, they were at less than like 4 or 5 shots on goal, and New Jersey had like almost 20 or 20, if I'm not mistaken, and they were down 1-0. Stolar's played out of his mind, and in the 3rd period, they just it was the most. I saw this in a couple of places, and I was like, hey, I never thought about this, but it's actually true. It was the most Sheldon Keefe game ever when Sheldon Keefe was the coach of the Leafs, because all the times this would happen, it's like, oh, Leafs got 40 shots, 45 shots, they lose like 2-1 or something, or they just get, and it's like, that happened the other way this time. It was funny. But yeah, that was, they're not scoring as much, which is, it's really annoying me, because...
Yeah.
Yeah. But,
I'm curious to see what happens in playoffs.
Go ahead.
I'm curious to see what happens in playoffs because it's like they've had trouble scoring in the playoffs with their old system. But then you go to a system that's already more defensive and then you struggle to score in playoffs. It's a bit of a different thing. But I will say that I think they have enough game breakers where they can kind of get through that.
I love Sheldon Keefe hockey. And that's why I was excited for the Devils, because I was like, he's the perfect. As soon as he went there, I was like, this is the perfect coach for them, because when you have
they're playing well too. So
and like he's all about possession. He's all about keeping up the pressure and all about making plays. And there's so many like Sheldon Keefe teams. Like even when I watch the Devils now, I see so much Leafs in them because man, he's like the amount of set plays he has on offense and stuff, like it's very noticeable, especially when you watch the team regularly. Like the amount of set plays that Sheldon Keefe teams have and the amount of possession they keep and the shots they take and stuff. It's fun hockey to watch if you're a fan of the team. They generally dominate a lot of the games.
Evan?
I feel like it's kind of a positive thing. Like, if you're looking at it, Leafs are still winning a lot of games, and they're close games. And so if you're looking at playoffs, like, yes, it's great if they score and have all this possession in the regular season, but if they can't win tight games, which are what a lot of playoff games are, and maybe it's more defensive style, that's kind of what playoff hockey is, and so that could bode well for them in the future, especially, like you said, having a goalie that's played well and having one of the best defensively or defensive analytical pairings in the NHL
Pairings.
too.
I think that like they've had a lot of 2-1, 1-0 games in the playoffs, and they've often been on the wrong end of that. So we could probably potentially see that kind of change, where they end up on the 1-0, 2-1 win side rather than the other side of that. Let's move on to injury updates quickly. Trevor Zegras is out 6 weeks in Anaheim. Late January return. Hampus Lindholm is week to week. Rasmus Dahlin is being further evaluated. There's no real timetable for his return. Vladar and Kuzmenko for the Flames are both day to day. Mrazek is on IR, but he is expected back in a week or so. Laurent Brossoit. So both our goalies are injured, actually. Brossoit is not back until early in the new year. The Avs have a ton of injuries. Manson, Shillington, Wood, Druin, and Tucker Poolman, I guess. But I'm pretty sure he's on LTIR for eternity at this point. None of these guys are back anytime soon. Druin, I didn't realize is hurt again. But fair enough. Thomas Harley is day-to-day. Matt Dumba is day-to-day. Tyler Seguin, unfortunately, he is having another hip surgery, so he's out 4 to 6 months. I think this is not going to bode well for his career. I think this is like his third hip surgery in like 4 years now. But we'll see if he comes back for playoffs. Alex Lyon is on injured reserve. Arvidsson and Kane are both back in the next week or so. Barkov is day-to-day. Trevor Moore is day-to-day. Drew Doughty is a big update. He should be back sometime in the new year, early in the new year, after missing the first few months of the season. No one really in Minnesota, aside from Joel Eriksson-Ek. He should be back in the next couple of days. Roman Josi is day-to-day. For the New York Islanders, a big return. Matthew Barzal is back. Hopefully help them score a little bit more. And they're still in that playoff race for the wild card spot, so we'll see if they can improve off of that. Bo Horvat is also day-to-day, and Sammy Varlamov is back in the end of the month-ish. Artemi Panarin is day-to-day. Keandre Miller out until the end of the month. Anton Forsberg is out. Didn't know that. He's potentially back by the end of December, it says. Zub is on LTIR now. Interesting. We'll talk about that at some point. David Perron is still out. No one else really that I care about here. Jordan Eberle we talked about. Yanni Gourde is day-to-day. Victor Hedman is day-to-day. JJ Moser actually had... JJ Moser's injury is from... You remember that Kadri play where he jumped over the guy?
Yeah.
That was JJ Moser. And when Kadri landed, he kind of landed on his hand. So he's out based off that. Anthony Stolarz is on injured reserve. See him back in a week or so, potentially. Hakanpää is the same kind of timeline as well. Ovechkin is looking like he's going to kind of meet the early part of that timeline. He's practicing in a non-contact jersey with the team. So look for him to be back just after Christmas. And then for the Winnipeg Jets, Nikolai Ehlers got placed on injured reserve, but he is practicing in a regular jersey, so he should be back soon as well. Omer, you got our funky stat of the week.
Funky stat. Okay, so here's an interesting one. Who do you think has the most shootout goals, game-deciding shootout goals of all time?
All time.
This player is tied for third in terms of just shootout goals in general, ever. And he's first for game deciding shootout winners. So
Is it like, are we working together, Sufine?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't really a game, so we can just work together.
with 23 game deciding shootout goals and 49 tied for third shootout goals in general.
I'm going to say guys that I know are good at shootouts. Oshie, Datsu, Josh Bailey.
Kane,
Come to mind. Kane,
Franz Nielsen,
Those are the 5 that are at the top, I know.
Barkov.
It's Franz.
I think Franz Nielsen.
Yeah.
I'm so
Fair
smart.
enough.
I thought that
I was deciding between Nielsen and Filppula because I mixed them up quite a lot in my head. Who was first in?
Before I've seen him like shoot against Ottawa, and they're like, he's one of the best shootout players of all time.
But I don't know if he doesn't really do anything crazy. He just scores.
Yeah, because like the other guys on the list, you're like, okay, makes sense. You know, Taves, Kane, Oshie, Pavelski, Crosby, Parise, Kopitar, Verbata. Yeah, Datsuk is 11th. You know, and like
I don't know if Verbata fit in that group.
He had a couple fire seasons.
But yeah, I was shocked when I was like, this guy's in like the top 3, and it's like Franz Nielsen had like his most points ever were like 58 or something.
I mean, I think he only scored like 20 goals once, but like this guy, he's shootout god. But yeah, every one of those guys has like set moves that are just like absolutely insane to look at. But then Nielsen just goes in and shoots and scores every single time.
It's like Sufi at the bar. He's got his set moves.
I don't go to bars, Evan.
Yeah.
No.
Gosh.
Hookah bars.
Evan, you got the head-to-head.
I do. So, I took it as, for this upcoming free agency, if you were a team that was looking to add a centerman, what player would you kind of target? And you can take into account what kind of ask they'd want in free agency. So my question to you guys is, both these players are having pretty good seasons comparatively to other years. What player would you rather have on your team or sign to your team for an extension after this season? Would you rather have Mikael Granlund or John Tavares? Because they're both up at the end of the season, and so who would you prefer? Because Granlund's maybe a bit younger, maybe a better passer, you could argue, but Tavares maybe plays a bit better, and scores more. So, yeah, up to you guys, and give me your reasoning.
I think we know what Omer's answer is.
Well, I'll argue for him regardless, so you go ahead and go Granlund.
I'll probably go Tavares. I think that, right now, if I'm thinking of categories of players, they're probably closer than they were at the start of their careers. Or definitely closer at the start of their careers. But I think you can bring Tavares in and put him with skill players, and it would be a smooth transition. It would also be a lot of experience, a lot of good finishing ability. He's still a good enough finisher. And he still creates enough plays on his own. Where Granlund, he's kind of been the same for his entire career. Not a bad player, second line player, which kind of Tavares is now. But I think that Tavares has more of an ability to potentially exceed the expectations of his contract even later in his career. Where Granlund, I think you kind of know what you're getting, regardless of.
Yeah,
he's a bit of a safer option.
Going into free agency, if Tavares is kind of close to point per game, if he ends up that's a guy that might be asking for 7+ still for maybe a shorter term deal, where you may get Granlund at maybe even like a 4.5 range, which would save you quite a bit of money for kind of a second line center.
I think that's the thing. If I'm choosing for the Caps, I'm not choosing Tavares. Because I think Granlund just makes more sense. Because, I mean, Mangiapane's up in the year. Granlund comes in a bit better. Definitely better. And probably making like around 4.55. I think it really depends on your team if you're thinking of who to sign. If I'm talking Boston needs a second line center. You're signing Tavares out of those two.
So, okay, if I'm going for a better skater, I think we know it's we're going to go for Granlund there. But I'm going Tavares because...
I'm a Leaf fan.
I think if you get a Tavares like he's playing this season right now, and like he's played in his first year in Toronto, or like a couple of, like, see, the biggest knock with Tavares, like if you look at Tavares' stats over the 6 years or whatever it's been since he came to Toronto, it's, yeah, he's had seasons that are underwhelming, but he's hovered in that point per game range even in those seasons. The reason that he gets the flack he does is because he makes the money he does. And that's fair enough. He deserves that flack if he's not performing at a higher level that deserves that contract, sure. So right now he's playing at, if he continues how he's playing right now, he's playing at what I want to say like an 80+ point season. Or at least in and around a point a game he's playing at, and he's probably on his pace to over 30 goals, if not close to 40, if he keeps scoring like this, right? So, so if he plays at that pace, I think the highs of Tavares have been higher than the highs of Grandin. Has Grandin ever cracked a point a game? Like, has he ever got 82 points or more? So I think the highs of Tavares are higher than the highs of Grandin. I think his ability to essentially, like, he's a brilliant cycle player. If you're a team that relies heavily on cycling the puck, not a rush team, like I don't think Tavares would fare well on a Sens team, for example. They're very rush. That you need more speed on that team because their in zone time is barely any, and that's where Tavares strives. You need him to be behind the net, be on the boards, protect the puck, make plays in tight. That's what he's good at, and that's, if you're a team that needs that, which a lot of teams do. I would say you're high. You have a higher, even if he's older. Betting on him, the payback probability of him doing something better than Granlund is higher. I think he has a higher ceiling than Granlund does, even at an older age.
I'm changing my answer. So right now, John Tavares has 28 points, 15 goals in 30 games. Mikael Granlund has 32 points, 11 goals in 31 games. Now, if I'm strictly basing it off that, I do go back to what Evan said, where if we're talking about signing a player, if Granlund's putting up similar production on a much worse team, like a significantly worse team,
and would ask for less,
like I think it's hard to deny that. Like, I'd rather just save the $2.5 million.
But
like, I think Tavares is
based on the money we're spending on the player right now.
He did say, "Who would you sign in the offseason?"
Yeah, as if these two people are heading into free agency.
Yeah. So if I'm basing it off that, I think I'm going Granlund for sure. Like, I think even if Granlund slows down a bit and ends up in like the 65-70 point range, I'd rather take that at 65 or at 4.5, 5, maybe 5.5 mil than Tavares, where unless it's Toronto, I think you're looking at 6+, 6.5, and I think his decline is going to be a lot more steep.
But when you say if he slows down and ends up in the 65-70 range, he's never done that in his career.
I'm saying based off what he's playing right now.
Yeah, but he's never been in the 65-70 point range in his career in his prime. He's never been there.
I think that, you can look at a bit team aspect off that too. I mean, he's played on pretty defensive teams in his careers. Like, I think if we're talking like Minnesota and such, like, they're not weak teams, but I think if we're talking San Jose and him putting up 32 points, 31 games, maybe it's recency. It's definitely recency bias, but I think that when you're signing a player, like, you're going to take the most recent stats into account because you're signing the player for the rest of his career. Essentially, if you're talking about a player that's 32 or 34, like Tavares is 32, 34, or whatever, I don't know how old he is. But I think that we're talking about a much steeper decline for Tavares when he hits a certain age, where Granlund, even if he falls back to the norm compared to what he's doing this year, I don't think it's going to be as much of a shock to you, making 4.55 mil.
Which is fair. I just think if you're paying a similar price for a player and you have he's going to do what this player has never done, I don't know why I'd go with. If
you're talking 6 mil and we both have to sign these guys for 3 years, 6 mil, then maybe I'll take Tavares. But I think Tavares has too much reputation to take the same contract as Mikael Granlund.
Yeah, but this is a hypothetical situation where they're going at, like we can't really determine what prices they're both going to go at for sure. Like, if I'm paying $2 million more for John Tavares, I'll pay $2 million more for a player who has historically and will probably still get more points than Michael Granlund. I
think historically you're looking at a player that he once was, not what he is now.
True, but like if he comes out with another 80-point season this year, which he could very well.
He could.
Like I'm Granlund, I don't think has ever hit 80 points in his career, and he's about to not do that when he's not in his prime for sure. When he's getting
He just spat again.
when he's like what's he going to be 34? How old is Granlund? 33, 34,
32. He's turning 33. John Tavares is 34, and he's going to be 35 at the start of next year. So
they're about 2 years apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know how long of a contract he's going to take. Maybe Toronto's going to pull a
2-3 year contract each. Okay, you're getting a younger player with Granlund, which makes sense, but
I could see Toronto pulling a Chris Tanev with Tavares and just signing him for like 6 years at like $4 million.
I would still think at 34, 35, like 35 years old, if you're a team that's going for it and you want a short-term payoff, Granlund will last you longer. A short-term payoff might be Tavares because he might get you more points in when he's 35 still over Granlund.
I don't think there's enough of a difference there for me to pay the extra money. But again, it's hypothetical based off what we think they're going to make.
Yeah.
Where I think that really changes based off where Tavares goes. Where I think Granlund's market is kind of set at what it is, 5.5.
So wait, who won this one? You said you're going to Granlund. You said who, Evan? Garland?
Garland?
Sorry, Granlund. Garland. You said Granlund?
I think you've both made very good points. I think, if you're looking at maybe a cheaper alternative, I think Tavares is probably a little bit better right now. But it is quite close in kind of what you're looking for, like, a goal scorer versus kind of a playmaker. So it would kind of depend what you're looking for in your team. So we'll just call it a tie, guys.
Who would you go for?
Who would you want in Ottawa right now?
Tavares. I think Tavares. We can talk about this later more, but I said for Ottawa, if they're in somewhat of a playoff spot, maybe Perron is one of these when he's healthy and back. But I think the two things Ottawa could acquire at the deadline is another competent NHL defenseman, kind of going forward to have as like another. Like hopefully Zub's healthy and everything, but as another kind of guy that you can put in there, and then another guy that it doesn't necessarily have to be a top 6, but like a top 9 that could score you like 15 goals in a season, and some of them kind of being in front of the net kind of cause a bit more havoc, because I believe that Kachuk's really the only guy in the top 6 that scores many goals close to the net, where we have a lot of perimeter offense, so I think a kind of net front or just a pest kind of scorer would be beneficial, and that could be Perron, but we'll see what happens and hope he's back soon.
Okay, let's move on to our fantasy player to trade or pick for. Trade for or pick up. I'll start with this one because I have one right in front of me, and he is 1% owned. The only reason I know about him is because he's on my team, and you have about a week left of where he's going to be valuable. So pick him up this week or don't pick him up at all. It's Taylor Radish. He is playing on the top 6. He's playing on the second power play, and that's only going to last as long as Ovechkin is gone. But he's done pretty decently the last couple of games / last couple of weeks, and he's fitting in a little bit more in that top 6. And I think if you pick him up in the next week or two, he's going to provide enough value if you have a deeper league. Evan?
I have a guy that I had for a standout, so Victor Olofsson. Again, not a super sexy name, but also isn't super owned, but has been scoring at a pretty high rate lately and gets you some power play points, so can be in a deeper league. A nice little pickup while a few people are out.
So Olofsson, just for context, is 8% owned in Yahoo.
Omar's like, Connor McDavid, because I think he's good at hockey.
Austin Matthews just came back from injuries. Trade for him.
He did. No, I think I would say I think he's more of a short-term pick because he's had a decent month actually. I think he's like below 10% owned, maybe below 5% owned. I don't know.
I'll be the judge of that.
Yeah, but
you said that about Stolarz. He was 82.
I think Trent Frederick actually. He scored a few goals in the last few weeks. I think if you have a deep league, if you have some injuries, or if you have some
Hits, maybe.
Hits, yeah.
Hits for sure. I think he's a good pickup right now because I think he's producing a little bit, and yeah, he'll get you your hits and stuff. I don't think
He's 6% owned. There you go, Omer. Finally made it. So we're going on to my stock game, I'm pretty sure. Yep. So, stock game, you guys have 3 total minutes for this. I'll set the timer. Amongst forwards, you got 3 minutes. The top 5 players in secondary assists. Your time starts now.
We can just say as many people as we want.
Yeah.
Tim Stutzla.
3rd.
Oh, you got it, right?
It's this season.
Yes.
There's a bunch of McKinnon,
McKinnon 2nd.
Marner,
No. What'd you say, Omer?
Rantanen,
No.
Makar,
No.
Crosby,
Quinn Hughes.
Crosby,
I said forwards, by the way.
Oh yeah.
Crosby.
No.
Oh,
Reinhardt, Kachuk.
It's not McMichael and not Reinhardt or Kachuk. Neither Kachuk.
Kucherov.
4th.
Oh, Kucherov, yeah.
So you need 1 in 5.
Point,
Nope.
Nylander.
Nope. I'll give you 6 as well, actually. It's a tie for 5th.
Granlund.
Nope.
McDavid,
Natchez.
None of those. Natchez is 11th.
Jarvis,
Nope.
Omar, name teams.
Minnesota,
Kaprizov.
Nope.
Kyrou,
Nope.
No.
Granlund.
You already said Granlund.
Eichel.
It's 1st.
We need one more.
You need either 5 or 6, so they're both tied. You have 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Dylan Strome.
He's tied for 5th.
Oh,
Did you get any, Omar?
no, I don't think so.
So just for your viewing pleasure or hearing pleasure, Jack Eichel has 12 primary assists. He has 21 secondary assists. Nathan McKinnon has 20 first assists, 17 second. Stützle has 10 first assists, 16 second assists. Kucherov has 19 first assists, 13 secondary assists. Jesper Bratt was the one that you guys didn't get. That was also tied for 5th. He had 15 and 13. Strome has 14 and 13. But yeah, the Eichel thing was just interesting to me because 12 and 21 is absolutely insane.
Surprised Mike Eichel has that much, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're ending it off with 1 positive, 1 negative, and 1 standout player for each of our teams.
Okay, my positive is that the Leafs are winning games.
All right.
My negative is that the Leafs are not scoring as much, which I'm not taking as too much of a negative because they're still winning, but I like seeing them score more. And my standout player, he's not a standout player, but I think I should just to give this,
He's not a standout player.
but I should give him some love because he finally scored his first goal of the season. Max Domi.
Oh, he scored his first goal of the season.
First goal, and he got his
hurt.
first point of the season since October 22nd.
He was hurt.
Yeah.
How long was he?
5 games? Who cares?
Oh, fair enough. I don't think that's that much of an excuse. So, Evan, positive, negative, standout.
Positive would be also that my team is winning games. I think we've had we've lost some games earlier in the season where we dominated most of the game, and recently we've either played kind of equally or better than other teams and have held on for wins, which is nice. We're a little more resilient. We're not getting scored on and kind of fumbling. So, kind of my standout, or whatever you said, positive. Negative would be probably still letting goals in bunches. Like against the Pittsburgh Penguins, they scored a couple goals in like a few minutes span, I believe. And so just trying to, you can let in a couple goals. It was 3-2. Like, it's not a bad showing per se, but trying to keep structured again, even if you did get scored on, and don't kind of go back on your heels. And then standout, I'm not going to use Allmark again. I'll try to go different. So I'll say Drake Batherson. He had a natural hat trick, scored another goal, had an assist in that hat trick game as well. So when he's hot, he's really freaking hot. And has been one of the most dominant offensive forces on the Senators lately.
Very nice. My positive is I can't say winning games because we've been doing it all season. But I'll say, I don't know, I'm slapping my dick on the table here. Our positive so far.
I hope your mother doesn't listen to this.
I don't think she's not going to. I realized that midway through when we started talking about that. I was like, she's not going to see this anyway. Our power play, it was our Achilles heel for the start of the season. It didn't really hinder us too much, but I think probably about 5 or 6 games before Ovechkin got hurt, it was started getting going and like firing more so on all cylinders. And then over the last like while or so, it's been hot. Like we went from like 31st in the league to like either top 10 or just out of the top 10 in the power play.
Like ever since Ovechkin left?
He was there for the first 5 games of that stretch. So, but I have said this before, I think we need to move Ovi out of the Ovi spot for our power play to be successful. And I hope we do that at some point. But regardless, Chychrun and Karlsson have been running our power play very, very nicely from the top. I think Chychrun's shot has brought a completely different element from the top of the zone. And so our power play has been great. Our negative, I mean, we've been finding ways to win in spite of this, but we haven't had the best week and a half. And, we're still finding ways to win, but I think playing against teams that we should be beating, it's been a little bit too close to call at times.
Like playing to the level of your opponent.
Exactly. Like, I think when we play teams like Jersey, Rangers, whatever, like we always come to play for those games. But we lost to the Sharks in overtime, and that was tough. Like, we got goalied a little bit by Blackwood, but we definitely could have taken our chances a little bit better. And then Columbus game was still too close for my liking. And same with the Sabres game. That was close until the third period. But we do still find ways to win. But I think that if we can kind of assert the dominance that we have in like the third period of those games over the entire course of the games, it would just make it a little bit easier on us. And then our standout player is easy for the last week. It was Tom Wilson by like a country mile. He absolutely ate a puck to the face by Jacob Chychrun. I don't know if you guys saw his face after that, where he looked like a chipmunk. But he ate a puck to the face in the first period and then came back and scored once and then scored again. He scored the game winner. And then the last game, wearing a full face shield, he scored 2 against the Sabres as well. And he's having a pretty damn good season. I think he's on pace for career numbers as with pretty much the rest of our team. So it's definitely Tom Wilson for us.
Well, we'd like to thank Carlington Booch for sponsoring this episode again. You can check them out at carlingtonbooch.com, as well as thank you for just tuning in. We appreciate you listening to us yap. And so refer us to a friend, not to Sufi's mom, please. And you can find us on all of the following platforms:
Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts,
Stitcher,
SiriusXM. Listen to us on YouTube and follow us on TikTok, on Twitter, and on Instagram at The Unfortunate Diehards. And we'll see you next time.